final panel discussion, I invite Mr. Raghu Dharmaraju from ARTPARK and Mr. Arun Zechariah from CMC Vellore to lead the panel. And as the panelists, we will have Mr. Inbashekar from Medibuddy, Dr. Lakshmi Panat from C-DAC, one of the representatives from Sigtuple, Mr. Arun Agrawal from Janithri, and Mr. Narayana from Salcit Technologies. So over to you, Mr. Raghu and Arun. Thanks.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all the speakers and especially our industry partners here. Oh, thank you for joining us here. So this session we're just going to spend a few minutes putting you all on the spotlight, and thank you for your lovely presentations. And primarily, we want to talk about how the industry and healthcare partners can work together. And then if I may, we can just start off with a larger question, which maybe all of you can take a little bit to answer is, what does the industry want from healthcare partners?
Yeah, so one of the takeaways, I think, from today morning's session and a relevant answer to this question is a passionate physician. We are actually looking forward to collaborating with several passionate physicians from CMC as well as several other organizations. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, in my view, first, I want to make sure that the doctors are very good friends to us. So I was not knowing that, I'm going to work on Swasa 23 years back. Otherwise, I could have married a doctor.
That's going to help.
Yeah. No, because, the problem is coming from you, and you are actually going to integrate whatever we are developing into your clinical flow. And without your involvement, the technology has no value.
Yeah, so I'm from the other side, so I'm from the doctor's side. So I think as ma'am mentioned, collaboration is very important. I think without us telling you what we need or why you want to make this product, you cannot make the product, right? So it has to be helpful, it has to be useful, and it has to give solutions also. So, like when we introduced AI100, so it gives the pathologists a platform to actually reclassify the cells. So if I feel that this is not a lymphocyte and it's a blast, I can do it. But we saw pathologists who wanted everything. Like, if it's blast, it has to be, it has to go into blast bucket, which is not possible because in every field you will have gray zones. So I may think it's a lymphocyte, my colleague may think it's a reactive lymphocyte, somebody may think it's a blast. So they want solutions, and it's very baffling that, they want perfect solutions, which is not, we cannot achieve that, but let's try to do it, yeah.
Yeah, so I think one of the things which, since beginning also, which have helped us, and that sort of a collaboration which we need with the hospitals or healthcare providers is actually what is that need which we need to solve. So starting from that engagement, okay, this is the problem, this is the challenge, allow the industry people, engineers to spend time with you and see what's happening. And then further sit together thinking about the solution validation, and further sit together and thinking about how we are going to validate it. So it's always not about, okay, we have a solution and we want to do clinical trials or we want your data. So I think if we can go a step back, okay, let's solve some problem together, starting from need validation and then further launching of the product. There are multiple steps here. So, and a very great industry academic collaboration is needed here from India, and great products can come out.
Yeah, I think they've already said what needs to be said, so on this at least.
So let me then bother you guys with an add-on question, right, if you guys are done. I know from my experience, initial assumptions rarely hold, right? So I kind of want to really hear from you, what was the big thing, if you have had these big changes in your journey? Maybe it was a pivot, maybe it's like, hey, these assumptions that we had at the beginning don't work. And I kind of want to hear that a little bit, because I know that when we approach hospitals, yes, we want to promise a lot, but ultimately it's an iterative journey, right? And many startups, I think rarely are there startups who don't do iterations both on product and market.
Okay, so I come from telemedicine, and I guess when we started doing this, there was a lot of fear that, when you go to a clinician and say, do your consult on the phone, they'll be like, why? But that's actually not the problem we faced. If anything, the amount of adoption of tech among clinicians was just, it kind of, even now, I think the number of people who sign up to be on the platform versus how many we can actually find patients for is, the ratios are skewed. So the fear that tech adoption will be poor among clinicians is something that was, completely blown away by our interaction.
So this is a good way.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Arun, your journey. I remember meeting you early on before you started in that on conference room at IKP.
Right.
And then there was that BIRAC thing. So it's great to see you come this distance.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that wasn't without struggles and asking what changes you need to make.
No, absolutely right, Raghu. So if you look at, you have seen that journey, right, where as an individual entrepreneur, we got supported by the government. Okay, you go in the field and first find the problem. Go spend time in hospital, go spend time with doctors and see what's happening. And then find out that one problem and then further develop the solution. So if I would have need to, think what could have been done differently. So I would say that, so for example, I have spent a lot of time with the gynecologist, who are the decision maker in this field. But I have really not spent a lot of time with the check writers. So ultimately, the decision maker, influencer, user, each stakeholder is different, and somebody who's writing the check and taking your product is different. So I think as a startup or as an entrepreneur, spend time with each stakeholder of your ecosystem. This is what I would have done extra, which I did in after I've learned that.
Yeah, I often tell startups beneficiary, user, chooser, payer. And public health especially, all these things tend to be different and super crazy. Maybe Sigtuple, do you have any big pivots you've had?
So I'm not sure about the technology side or the commercial side, but what we faced on the pathology side was like a lot of our customers were asking for malarial parasite detection, TB bacilli detection. So what we have in our product right now is a 40x objective, which will not be accepted to identify malarial parasite by any pathologist. Though we could get a few cases where it was clearly seen, the trophozoite form and the gametocyte, but they said without, even if you ask me, I wouldn't accept the product. So right now, we are making another machine device altogether with the 100x objective so that we can accommodate our malarial parasite and TB bacilli and everything. So that was one thing we faced.
Was device really in the plan when?
No, because
when that was your big pivot.
Yeah, but
by the
actually,
way.
when the engineers asked us, I think engineers don't listen much to doctors. I mean, that is what we feel, because every time we would tell them, no, 40x will not be accepted, but they would be like, no, we'll try. So then finally, it's what we said. So I think collaboration is, I think that's the key. So.
Do you want to add? Yeah.
What was the specific question?
Big questions, big changes or pivots that you had to make from the initial assumptions of your journey.
Yeah. So actually, we started our journey, with combining both the breath sounds and as well as the cough in actually providing detecting various respiratory conditions. But then I met Dr. Anand Krishnan, who heads Center for Community Medicine at All India Institute of Medical Sciences. And he said, the moment you bring in electronic stethoscope, you are actually bringing in a skill into the perspective. Because the person who is actually using that, he need to be knowledgeable. Basically he has to know how to put, where to put and all kind of thing. Can you do it little more simpler just naturally using some kind of a microphone to collect a voice or a cough and identify there is any underlying respiratory problem. So that actually changed our game, and then we immediately focused on cough instead of really using the breath sounds. Of course, we do have in the roadmap to revisit, but that's a big change the way we started with and what we are today.
So actually, I have a couple of things to add here. One is our interaction with sets of doctors to start with has not been very, like she said, engineers don't listen to doctors, and I feel exactly the opposite. Doctors don't listen to engineers. So it was very hard. So our first collaborator from AIMS, so we had a very hard time, even communicating with him the fact that we need lots of data to make the models. This was like beyond him. He said, you are experts in AI, aap log model bana lijiye. That is what he would tell me in every meeting. You make the models. So it was like, what's going on? This person, he's looking at so many patients and solving so many problems, and he cannot understand this basic problem of mine that a model cannot be built without data. So I had to struggle with him for months to just make him understand this basic fact. Then the second, I shared that this capacity building program that we had with doctors. So one very characteristic feature of the doctors, we dealt with 120 doctors, and it was a very hard time we had. With almost 3 months we dealt with those doctors, and it was really, I should say that.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry from their side, I think.
Quite traumatic to start with. But then we had a lot of communication with them, and we kind of managed to pull off those 3 batches of training. And we realized over time that doctors, they function in a very individualistic kind of environment. So it's like, I'm a doctor and all patients listen to me. Who are you to tell me kind of an attitude? Whereas the software building process itself was, so they couldn't even understand that why do you need to collaborate. So this basic fundamental thing that you need at least 4 to 5 engineers to work together to build a software system. So getting this idea across was very, very difficult. And also at the same time, so to get through this barrier, we also kind of made groups of those doctors. And they had super fights thinking that, how can we work as a team? How can you only do requirement? How can you only do design? How can I do only coding? So the very, very basic team building kind of issues we had. So we also introduced what are called as soft skills as part of the training for the doctors. So we have a lot of, we can have a different session to understand.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing so frankly about your pivotal points in your journey and also your challenges. And I think, ma'am, you actually already started off, how can clinicians and industry engage better? And then the one question that fits in many of the people's head is that data is that all that you want? And then you already alluded to the fact that that's not it, and you're looking for the clinical questions and so on. So if I may, just to the panel, any thoughts and ideas on how the industry and the clinicians can engage better? You started off with talking about soft skills and so on, so we'd be happy to hear more about that.
So definitely, I think in the next symposium, we could have sessions on soft skills also for doctors that might be useful to start with. So the more larger question I think that you're asking is, we all agree that we need to collaborate. So we need to work perhaps on steps of collaboration. So what will help?
Actually, I want to pick up on that and say, okay, if there were, let's say hospitals have a collaboration facility, like your APIs, like you plug in and you play, right? What would be the features of that API for you?
I mean, see, basically, it's, I mean, sorry, Raghu, to say this, but, these separate sections and APIs, at times work and at times don't work. That's, we have seen many engineering colleges having industry incubation centers and all. At times, I mean, we don't even know what's the outcome of those centers and all. Of course, there are some. But I think more importantly, to your point, we need them to spend a little more time with us. And of course, the encouragement is definitely there. I mean, it's my 4th visit to CMC. It's for me so easy to get into Balmugesh's office or Dr. Sujit's office, without any difficulty. But now, when it comes to really taking the product to the market, I mean, what is COPD? Why COPD, actually comes? And what kind of anatomical changes happen when COPD, disease gets identified? And how you can relate that to whatever you are doing it? And is that conveying with what we think is really the problem? I mean, the characteristic of the sound. That kind of a detailed discussion really will help in identifying maybe which are the areas we wanted to really go in, where it seems to be easy to really, build the solution and make sure that it is being in use instead of solving a very big problem where we will at some point later we'll identify that the solution won't work. So essentially, we want them to spend a lot more time in terms of what we are doing and clinically correlating with what the anatomical structure is, and make sure that the solution is actually built for a particular use.
Yeah, so I think I have the answer to why, there is this doctor versus engineer thing. So what happens is, like, when I moved from clinical practice into Sigtuple, so it was very difficult for me. So the kind of questions the engineers ask are different, the clinicians ask are different. So the engineers would go into like very intricate details. Why is this nucleus like this? Why are there only 2 lobes? Why can't there be 3? So, they start going to the, like, almost to the molecular level, and then we're like frustrated, like we don't want to answer them. We have studied all this, why should we tell you? So that kind of attitude, comes into that. But yeah, then eventually I think we also, as you said, that, it's very surprising that, oh, they have a data science team, they have an engineering team, they have this team, that team. And we are the only one team doing everything. So, so that is I think that is what we have. So I think that is why the confusion comes up, and but I think over a period of time, I think we also need some time to adjust to this new technology, this new change. It's actually a huge change for us to leave our microscopes, for example, and look into the laptop. So a lot of people hesitate to do that, especially the old timers, when we explain to them, and they're like, no, but we don't want to see it on the laptop. We want to see it on the microscope. So if you don't take the first step to change, it's never going to change. So I think that is the problem. So our mindset has to change, and it has to become more aware that this is only helping you and not replacing you. So, and that is also another fear, especially among the pathologists, that this is going to, replace the pathologist, but actually it's just aiding or guiding the pathologist.
Yeah. So I think from the startup perspective, specifically in health innovation, for example, if I have given a chance, that if a hospital is offering an office to a startup inside the campus, I will take it. That sort of a deep collaboration is needed if it is in healthcare innovation with a hospital or a doctor. Now let me put a couple of points, like what exactly these things which I felt in last 6-7 years and how this can be better. So as I've already mentioned, that starting from the need validation, a doctor's advice is needed, doctor's time is needed. Going from the proof of concept validation or idea validation to the clinical data, clinical research. So I think it's, if you see this whole journey, the whole journey is iterating. The whole product innovation is iterating in this journey. And all stakeholder here, like whether it's a nurse, doctor, or some other aspect of the hospital, is contributing in this product journey also. And even I have seen that, like, what is the interest of clinician here? So clinician is a research-oriented person involving with a startup or engineer for some publication or some other data research objective. But I think this will very soon, and it has started already going away. Now hospital have started asking IP. The joint IP have started coming into picture where hospital is saying if any new IP is going to file, it will be joint. And this is how it's going to be sustainable going forward. So I think all these aspects has to come into picture, and it's a very strong collaboration is needed.
The original question being, is data all you need? And, what would the interface look like? And I guess that really depends on what you're really trying to build. Some people would just want the data because that's really the product. But if you're looking to collaborate on building and understanding how decision support systems can be used in, technological decision support systems can be built and implemented at scale in medicine. I don't think there is any way around building relationships with clinicians, right? So that API requires, like a lot of fault tolerance, because as you might have, noticed, so there is a pretty significant difference in the cultures in engineering and medicine, right? And I'm a clinician by training, and who kind of went over to the other side. And my full-time job is trying to explain to my engineers who are actually here, why is it that cells can't have more than one nuclei? Some of them do, I'm told, I don't know. But the fault tolerance is basically to say that despite the appearance that there are so many differences, there are a lot more synchronicities and things that we kind of want to do together. And so that after you get over that initial phase of, I have to answer them, it goes fine, So just that sort of a mindset that says that I'm going to put up, we're going to have to put up with each other and the differences in our cultures and kind of figure out how does this go forward, because it's a new venture, this usually, even in tech, the idea of working with subject matter experts is, in a sense, the way you do it in AI is quite new, compared to how you do it in, you're building a different kind of an app. So that's a sort of a bidirectional, maybe cultural change that, we'll figure out.
Can I add? So actually, I would like to add a couple of experiences. We usually look for what is in it for me. So we had a very good experience with students from, one student from AFMC, which is again Armed Forces Medical College in Pune. So we worked on sputum analysis with that student. So two things which we realized is students typically want to do a lot of publications. And AI is a very upcoming field, and so he realized that his papers would get easily accepted because he is venturing into this new area. So that was a very big motivation for him, and we saw that over a period of 2 years, he put in a lot of effort for data annotation. It is not an easy task at all. And like you're saying that annotating such minute objects within that sputum is really hard, but he still managed to do that, and he had almost 6 publications over a period of 2 years. So that was a big motivation for him. So this is one way to look at how can I get motivated. Then the other thing is, during this COVID period, a lot of software engineers, they would say that, we are enjoying work from home, and then doctors would say, no, I still have to go. I have to go every day. How is this possible? You are sitting at home and doing work, and I have to go to office, this kind of thing. So one of my friends, and she happens to be a pathologist. So very happily, last month she was telling me, and I was just looking at her face, wow, what a change is this in a period of 2 years. She said, you know what, even I am working from home now. I said, wow, how did that happen? So then she shared her story with me. She said that I have 2 huge screens installed in my house now, and all images I get at home, and I'm enjoying work from home. I need to go only once a week. So this is a big cultural change. This is what I found. So what is in it for me? If you can answer that question, as a doctor, then you will find quite a few use cases which will motivate you, because these things are not, overnight things which we get. So this has to have a lot of patience, and we have to have, like you said, we have to build a lot of bridges, and it's not an easy journey. So if we can find specific things for myself, what is in it for me, then I think this journey becomes useful.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing. I think building relationships, building tools, capacity building, soft skills. We covered a lot of ground, and really thank you for all your input. And we hope this is a start of many conversations to come, and continue to connect the industry and the clinicians together. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Raghu.
Okay.